All right. So let's get started. Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Renee Dorn, Director of Alumni Relations for the Graduate School of Education and Psychology. And I would like to welcome you to our Student Alumni Roundtable for the PhD in Global Leadership and Change program. Today we have some wonderful speakers for you. But to get started, let me go through a few things. First of all, this session is being recorded. So, and everyone here will be able to receive a copy of the recording after we finish. The speakers that we have for today are Dr. June Schmieder. She is the program director for the PhD in Global Leadership program. We have Dr. Victoria Brown, known as Dr. Queen. She is a GSEP alum from the PhD program, and she is the Senior Digital Strategist for the Case Made, Inc. And we also have Dr. Frederique Covington Corbett, another GSEP alum from the PhD program, and she is Senior Vice President, Chief Global Brand and Integrated Marketing Officer at Visa. Let me also introduce you to my assistant, who is Sophia Henriquez. In the Alumni Relations Department. She's our Alumni Relations Analyst, and she will be working with me today on this roundtable. And for all of you who are students or prospective students, if you have any questions during the panel discussion with our speakers, put your questions in the chat, and then we will get to them as soon as the speakers finish. Okay? All right. So, Dr. June, I'm going to start with you so that you can give us a little introduction about the PhD program. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I'd first of all thank you for holding this, Dr. Dorn. And I'd also like to thank Dr. Brown and Dr. Corbett for being here. I really appreciate it. And Sophia for helping us with this. I also would like to thank the participants, many of whom I know and are very active.
I'll go to Richard. Is he out? Richard's out.
Yeah. So I'd like to start a little bit with how the PhD was formed in the first place, and then where it is now. I was just in a meeting today about enrollment and how people feel about programs, and they just told me we now have 249 current students, and it was amazing. They were saying in 5 years to have that number was really amazing, and I really appreciate all of you for helping in that. Let me start with the beginning. In 2013, what I noticed is that many people were getting jobs as adjuncts and as beginning tenure track. And there was kind of, when they had the choice a lot of times, and uh, between the EDD and the PhD, there was a trend that I saw, and many other people saw, that they probably would be looking at the PhD in many ways, but they would still hire EDDs. I mean, it wasn't like one degree was so much at a different level than another. It was just that when they applied, that's kind of where they went. And so I felt, and I was talking to a lot of people throughout the university, I felt that there was a need for this particular degree. And secondly, to have it more global. We did not have a global PhD at the time. This is the first PhD that Pepperdine has ever had. So I want to mention that anytime, as you know, as leaders, anytime you have change, it's difficult. So what I did first was talk to everyone in the university who was working on a degree. So I took everyone out to lunch. I think we went to a pizza place and we just talked about, okay, what degree are you working on? What degree are you working on? And the one thing I thought was interesting is many of the people have been working on these degrees for 5 years or so. And I thought, wow, by the time I get finished with this, it'll be, 2030. So at the same time, something came up called the Waves of Innovation contest throughout the university.
Right.
So I entered, and out of 160 people, they selected 8 to present. So I presented, And I thought my presentation was pretty good. It had Star Wars in it. It had, really exciting things. But I just want to say it was a little bit beyond what people were expecting. I looked at global issues that had a lot of things about the world and global and cultural. So I basically lost that contest. I don't feel bad. It's just I
Oh,
lost. I know. So when I walked off the stage that night, it was the Smothers Brothers stage. I was kind of dejected. I walked through the audience, and all of a sudden, my iPhone started blinking. And I looked at it and I said, "Who would be calling me at 10 o'clock at night?" And it said, "From the president of the university, Andrew
oh,
K. Benton, bring this back." Okay, bring this
oh,
back. And I wasn't sure
wow.
what he meant because the whole panel had just thrown it out of the window. But he said, I said, "What do you mean, bring it back?" He said, "Well, just bring it through the university." And I said, "Well, can I have the use of your controller, your finance officer, your legal team?" He said, "You can have anything you want for 1 week." And so I had that
Oh,
group for
my.
about a week. So that's what the deal was. And it went through every single level. It wasn't 100% because they felt we weren't ready, some people. But I'm very
Right,
happy to say it's now, we are successful. And, we are iterating, we're always finding ways to improve. So I just want to say thank you all for making this a success. And we hope to make it even more of a success. So thank you.
that's fantastic history about the
Yeah,
PhD program.
you just never know how something is going to evolve, I guess. So it was a change. It wasn't something people were ready for. So I learned there that, sometimes it takes like a contest to make a change. So that's what I would recommend. So if I had gone through different levels, it might have taken 5 years or so. Uh,
Right,
so yeah, it took a little while. So. But
right.
I welcome anyone, send me things that you feel, you like or you don't, that's fine. We look at everything to make things even more professional. And I'm very happy to say that we just had one of our students get the best paper at the International Leadership Association. And many of you on the call here have gotten a lot of accolades for what you're doing. So I appreciate that also. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dr. June. Thank you. Okay, so we also have two alums who are graduates from the PhD program. We have Dr. Queen and Dr. Corbett. So welcome to both of you.
Thank
And
you.
so the first thing I want to ask you is why did you two select the PhD program? Out of all the programs that GSEP has for doctoral programs, why the PhD program? And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Queen. Why did you select this program?
Great question, Dr. Dorn. I selected the PhD program because I felt like it would broaden my horizons of what I can do in a career because of the diverse skill sets that you would learn in a global leadership program, as well as if you were interested in, going the faculty route, you could do that because you have a
Right,
PhD, or if you want to
right,
go into consulting, you could also do that as well, or if you wanted to do research for different companies, you can do that as well. So there were so many different opportunities that I saw in my future if I were to go down this route with the PhD program. And so I had to take advantage of the opportunity. And as a alum of other other programs at Pepperdine, I knew that
right.
this was the institution to continue my education because of the relationships that I had built in the past as well.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. That's good. Well, Dr. Corbett, what about you? Why did you select the PhD program?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me here. And it's great to see Dr. Queen since we saw each other at the graduation. I would say primarily three reasons. The first was really the flexibility of the format. The hybrid nature of the program really appealed to me. One of the things that I was looking for a program that would allow me to keep my job, which is very demanding, and also keep learning at the same time. So the format was great. Um, I ended up living in Asia when I was doing the program, and also it allowed me to kind of fly in and fly out with the asynchronous also format. It was very flexible. And I thought that was
Right.
really quite unique. To be honest with you, I scanned pretty much every PhD program in the world. And that was really, really unique. The second factor was the topic. Um,
Hmm.
I, have had the chance to live in many places around the world, and I really wanted to study leadership with a global lens, not an American pretending to be global, but really a global lens.
Okay.
And I love that that was, kind of baked into the curriculum. And I can honestly say the people I met during the program were truly, really diverse, and that was a big, richness of the program. And then the
Right.
third was, I knew I wanted to do research and potentially, migrate into academia one day. And so the type of degree that I would gain from this experience would potentially allow me to teach down the line, which I was really interested in. So those were
Right.
sort of the three major criteria.
Well, that's wonderful. So let me ask you, so being in the program, graduating from the PhD program, how did the courses that you took help you currently with what you're doing in your profession? Dr. Corbett, I'll have you answer first.
I didn't do the program to get promoted at work. I did the program for my own personal growth. And I would say that it had
Hmm.
a very profound impact on me as an individual, which then yield the unexpected benefits of, I think, making me much better at my job. And I know it because people told me that I became a better leader. I would see people in my teams also lead better. So it had a very profound personal impact first, helping me lead myself and then helping me lead others better. That was probably the greatest joy I derived from the program. I would also say I think it made me a better mother and a better partner to my husband, because leadership is really about, you know, the kind of like the flow that you create with others and your
Right.
ability to influence in a group setting. And I think that that can have many repercussions, not just, in a professional context, but personal context. So
Right.
I would say it was really pretty profound.
Wonderful. Dr. Queen, what about you? Um,
Absolutely. I agree with Dr. Corbett's comments. And I would just add for me, I was able to operationalize the theories that we were learning in our courses on the
okay.
job. And that was very helpful because oftentimes you hear, do this step, do that step, but does it really work in
Right.
different situations on the job, with family, with friends, whatever spheres of influence that you have? So I really appreciated how I could take what I was learning and do it the next day at work or maybe the next month, or just have an objective to reach because I understood the theory and methodology behind it and I could
Right.
act it out in person. Another thing that I agree with Dr. Corbett is the amount of self reflection that happened throughout the courses. What do I value? What type of leader do I want to be? What type of
Right.
influence do I want to have? How do I want to make a positive impact on everyone that I come in contact with through my leadership? So I feel like I grew as a woman and all of the different identities that I hold because of the courses really hit home, as well as the faculty, their influence and their perspective and how they were able to share their experiences as well was very helpful on my journey.
I'd like to build on that because I think
Oh,
that that's such
sure.
a good point. Being in a corporate context, I find myself doing exactly what Dr. Queen was saying, which is I take the change theories and I would try them with my team. And I was very transparent. I'd say to them, oh, we have this particular project. It's quite difficult. We have to create a lot of influence and change. Which one of these do you want to try together? Right. Okay, let's try the cutter one and see how it works. Get create a sense of urgency and do this and do that. So we would really, I would really apply also what I'd learned and sort of get a gauge for myself with my team as to which ones are hard, which ones really work and don't work. I
Right.
also found that the practicality of the papers, oftentimes the assignments that were given to us were asking that we would um, leverage our experience in the real world to apply a theory. So that was really clever because it wasn't just assignments for assignment's sake. You could really
Right.
translate what you were learning into a real life situation, or you'd reflect on a real life situation perhaps where you failed. And then you'd say, oh, if I applied this theory, maybe it would have worked better. So that I think it's really an excellent point. And I also found the faculty to be very accommodating. Sometimes, if there was an assignment, you could go up and say, well, do you mind if I make this about something I'm working on right now? Because it might be more relevant
Yes.
to me. And professors were always really open minded about that, which was great.
Well,
I
let
just
me ask.
add one thing, Dr.
Oh
Dorn.
no, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. When
Go
we're
ahead.
talking about courses and assignments, that's what I appreciated about our comprehensive exam, because it was applying the theory to an actual experience that you're having as a leader. And I was
Yes.
able to help my community through what I wrote and the theories and everything that I crafted in that project. So it's real life application, not only in your coursework and your day-to-day assignments, but the comprehensive exam. I don't know if it's changed, but that was very meaningful to me. And also the accommodating faculty, just from the first class I remember, and Dr. Corrid, correct me if I'm wrong, we were always focusing on dissertation. All right, how can we curve all of the assignments to be focused on the dissertation, or help with the methodology, or help with the literature review? So that was inspiring as well as helpful to understand as a student. Okay, there's an end goal to this, and let me
Right.
start working on this now in the first semester. So by the time we're done with the course, where it's not like, okay, do your dissertation now, good, go ahead. So we had the opportunity to continue to work on that throughout the process, and that was very, very good in my opinion.
That's excellent. It's interesting that you mentioned that point about dissertations, because when I was in the EDD program, during my orientation, that was one of the first things that I was told, is try and gear your papers toward the topic that you want to write your dissertation on. And that was extremely helpful for those 2 years in classes, because when it came time for the dissertation, I had 2 years of research already. So that was extremely helpful. Let me ask you now, were there any challenges that you faced during the program that you had to overcome? And either one of you can answer that.
Dr. Queen, you want to go first? I mean, of course, there's a lot of challenges.
I was thinking the same thing. Definitely the program is rigorous. I'm going to be fully transparent with all of you on the call right now. It is a very rigorous program. It demands a lot of your time, but it is worth putting in that time, that energy, that effort, and thinking about how you want to set yourself up in the future. I would say the transition from master's to PhD, learning how to manage my time more efficiently, was something that I had to learn. I had a learning curve when it comes to time management, because papers are longer. We did a lot of in-class presentations, working on our public speaking, and also participating in the other activities afforded by the program and Pepperdine. And, that takes your time as well. So I would say that is quite challenging, just transitioning from one level of the academy to the next level. But there is help and there is support in that transition.
I would concur with that. I would say the workload is very steep, particularly the first year. I felt like it was a massive hockey stick. And I'd be honest, I had a number of moments where I cried. And I was like, I'm a grown woman. I don't know that I can do this. Just even simple things like learning APA. My God, that's like
Yes.
hours of your time. So I would say to everybody, you got to go in it wanting to really invest the time. What I found, and Dr. Quinn, you can tell me if you feel the same, is in the first year there's a lot of weeding out. You can kind of sense the students that are really in it and who are going to want to put the work. And it's almost like by the 6 months mark, quite a lot of them will leave because they felt, oh, I can just kind of wing it, and you can't wing it. You maybe the first 6 months, but then you really can't. And you have to then dig in and really figure out your research topic and what you want to write about. So I'd say, you can't go into it if you're really not willing to take on a massive workload, and also just be mentally prepared. You're probably not going to have much of a social life for 3, 4 years. And that's
Right.
something you need to be willing to give up, and to have your family support you on. Like, I had like conferences with my husband and kids, and I'd be like, I'm going to be like gone all weekend because I have 3 papers. But I'll tell you what, I'll take a break from 12 to 1 and we'll go on a walk. You really have to just structure your time and have a good support system. I'd also say, you have to be very much in the andragogy learning model. This is a self-directed program. You can't be passively waiting for your professors to give you all the
Right.
information. And I think, if I look back to my MBA time, I was still able to be in consumption mode. Like everything was prepared for me. In the
Right.
PhD, you are your own self-learner. You have to go when you read one paper that is assigned reading, actually what it means is you have to go to the references and read the other 30 because that's how you're going to learn. And if you're not willing to do that and you just kind of wing it on reading just the one assigned paper, you're not really being going to be in self-directed learning and get the most out of it. So I think you just kind of have to be prepared with that mindset.
Yeah, and if I could add, Dr. Dorn, to Dr. Corbett's
Sure.
statement, I definitely am a firm believer in self-care, because sometimes your family, your friends, your spouse, whoever doesn't necessarily understand what you're going through because they
Right.
haven't been in your shoes. And so it did take a lot of like, okay, Victoria, what hobbies can I do right now? Can I read something else that's not a research paper just to get your mind off of the workload, or just to kind of redirect your energy in another place? Do I need to
Right.
go to yoga, take a hike, do something? Take just 5 minutes, because you will burn out if you don't remember to take that time to have some self-care. So that is something that I feel like I had to learn the value of even more so
Right.
throughout the PhD program. And I definitely concur with what you're saying, Dr. Corbett, about the difference between pedagogy and andragogy, because you are teaching yourself and learning from your peers and your instructor, but you do have to take that next step and go a little bit deeper, because our faculty always challenged us not to just agree with what we were reading, but critically analyze it and
Right.
understand it on a deeper level. So that takes the onus is on you to do that as the scholar, and not on the faculty to provide that for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both of you have mentioned your classmates and your cohort. So, what did you think about the cohort setup? Was that helpful to you? Were your cohort members helpful when it came to group papers or group presentations? How did you work with your cohort members?
Yeah, I want to say, I'm from European background, and I was living in Asia when I did this program. One of the things I learned the most was I got such great insight in terms of, what diversity and inclusion really means. I think Pepperdine does a
Right.
great job at that in terms of the people that were in my class.
Yes.
They were from all over the world. They were from different cultural backgrounds. I felt really at ease in that kind of environment, being a foreigner myself and also living in Asia. I had done a leadership class at Harvard and it was very uniform and I didn't like it at all. I
Oh,
also want to speak to the generosity of the approach at Pepperdine versus what I experienced at Harvard. I felt like there was a lot of empathy um, from the students, a lot of support. Um,
right.
I never had problems finding teammates to do papers. And you always have one or two people in your class you don't really relate to. That's fine. But
Right.
actually, Dr. Queen and I worked on a paper together. People were really studious, wanting to do the work, and really kind. And I think that came from the top. Our professors had a lot of empathy. I really appreciated the kind of tone from the top that was set. And for me, a couple times because I was traveling from so far, I had to be present virtually through the remote robot, which was
Right.
wonderful because that created opportunity to be there. But it wasn't the same. I really enjoyed
Yes.
coming in person and having that relationship with the people.
Yes.
And that really kind of carried you, which is why it's so hard when then you're alone and you have to write the dissertation. You kind of miss that support system, and perhaps that's an idea like how to create a continuation of the cohort groups for support during dissertation time. That would just be an idea that I throw out there.
Right. No, absolutely. Dr.
Yeah,
Quinn? Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. I think I enjoyed the cohort setup because it was an extra layer of accountability as well.
Mhm.
Like we were encouraging each other, get the papers done. Where are you at on your dissertation? How are you thinking about this methodology? And we could just bounce ideas off of each other. And there were some in, Dr. Corbin and I are from the same cohort. So there were some people that came first day, knew exactly what they were going to do from the very first day. And there were others where had no idea. So we had a wide spectrum of, where we are when it came to our research, but it was always very supportive and holding each other accountable and partnering on things outside of the classroom as well. Like I've done speaking engagement with some of the members of my cohort. We went to conferences together. We participated in other events at Pepperdine together. So it is like a little family. And I would say that that was also an extension of the faculty as well, because you see pretty much the same faculty throughout the program, and they're used to you. By the time you're coming for that face-to-face session, it's like, hey, all right, what are we talking about today? It took the tension and the hierarchy out of the room, and we could just have a robust dialogue about whatever the material was. And I truly appreciated that. And I would also say that I had the opportunity to be in classes with other cohorts as well because of just conflicting schedule and things of that nature. And even then, so I was able to learn from my peers. And I think that that's what the classroom setting is about: learning for yourself, learning from others, and learning from the instructor. So, yes.
Excellent. You both talked about earlier the comprehensive exam and dissertation. Could you go into a little more detail for the students to tell them what they can expect when it comes to the comprehensive exam and dissertations?
You want to take it, Dr. Queen? Go first.
Okay, I think I talked a little bit about the comprehensive exam already. From what I recall, we were tasked with using a either hypothetical situation or a real situation and offering some insight from a change management perspective as a solution for that particular issue. And so that meant we wrote, I think it was a 50-page paper. Okay, so it was a 50-page paper, and then we had and then we also had a oral defense or oral presentation about the paper as well. And it was 2 faculty members that was a part of that oral presentation. Right. And so that is, from a logistical standpoint, that is what you should expect from the comprehensive exam. And for the dissertation, one thing I love about Pepperdine, there is so many resources on format, whether it's APA, editing, how many pages for chapter 2, header examples, all of that. You can definitely get those type of resources from the Writing Center as well as your advisor. So personally, my dissertation was about 170 pages and there was 5 chapters. Introduction was chapter 1. Chapter 2 was your literature review. Chapter 3 is your methodology. Chapter 4 is your findings. And chapter 5 is your conclusions. And so, but each advisor has their own way of constructing it as well. So I'm just speaking from my experience. And so also from a logistical standpoint, that is what you should expect. The preliminary defense and the final defense is about 2 hours. And that's you in front of your committee. I had 3 people on my committee. You have 1 main advisor. Let me know if I'm going too deep, Dr. Dorn.
No. I think the students need to know what to expect.
Okay.
With the dissertation, because it will be lengthy. It can be lengthy and challenging, but it's definitely doable. So,
and Dr. Queen, please go as deep. I actually had a meeting 2 minutes ago, and I stayed on here to listen to this depth. So please.
Okay, got you. I think that was Crystal. I got you. Yes. So on your committee, you have a advisor, which is someone with a PhD that is a part of the education department. My advisor was Dr. Martine Jago. And then you have another person that is associated with Pepperdine. And I had someone from the business school as my second person who also has a PhD, Dr. Charlotte Griffey Brown. And then you have an external person as well. And I had a Dr. Stephen Gilliland from Claremont University as my external person. And so the requirements are they should have their PhD, the main advisor and the second person, the third person sends in a form resume and has to be approved by the admin at Pepperdine in order to be a part of your committee. And once you get that approval, then you're good to go on that front. And like I stated, the preliminary defense, which is your first 3 chapters prior to you going into IRB and going to conduct your actual research, collecting data, doing your methods, that defense is 2 hours. And the final defense, which is chapter 4 and chapter 5, is 2 hours as well. Anything you want to add, Dr. Corbett?
Well, I think that's very helpful because you really want to know what to expect. I'd add a couple of sort of color touches from my personal experience. One is I would say use year 2 to really get into your dissertation pre-writing, right? The more you know right away from year 2, the more you start to apply. You could build paragraphs and keep them. You just have to be really laser focused. Don't think, oh, I'm going to wait on all the way until the end of year 3 to get going. That's a real big mistake. So that would be advice number 1. Advice number 2 is when you're thinking about the external person on your dissertation, also good to start thinking about it from year 2. As you're reading material, any one of those experts could become your external. That's what happened to me. I went in and studied in depth the theory of learning. And I read an article from, an expert, Dr. Siemens, that I thought was terrific. And one of my professors said, well, why don't you just LinkedIn him? And I was like, no, I can't do that. But I did. And then he responded and he became my external advisor, which was amazing. So, think about all these things, when you're going through year 2 to really start to apply. And I would say, for the dissertation, if you can, do it right away. There is a significant drop off after the class is finished.
Yes.
Your human inclination will be like, woohoo, I'm on holiday now. But I think then it's so hard to get back into it. The constructs, the language, everything you learn, it's much easier if you just pull through and you continue on your dissertation right away. It's not a race for sure, but I think it really helps you if you don't gap it. I think a lot of the students in our cohort, we've seen this with Dr. Queen, who've gapped it, have a lot of trouble then, getting back into it a whole year after things happen, you're busy. So those would be some areas of kind of practical advice.
One more area of practical advice is to make sure that you think about the timing in between when you're writing and defending for the IRB process, the APA editing process, making sure you can get everybody's schedules coordinated for your defenses, because that it take a couple of weeks to a month at times, or maybe even more. And I don't think students often think about that aspect of it too. They're like, okay, I'm gonna do my dissertation, then I'll be done. But there's more to it than just the writing and the defending that I learned throughout my process as well.
That's a really good point, specifically APA. Like I was kind of done writing and reviewing, quite quickly. And then there was 3 months of APA corrections. I was not expecting that. APA is very rigorous. And then when you have to go back through your entire dissertation all over again and redo the paragraphs, redo the punctuation, it's a bit of a nightmare. So better invest into it up front and know that you've got to build that buffer time.
That's why you should definitely tap into the writing center as early as possible as well. I literally wrote my dissertation in the 6th edition of APA and had to go back and change it to the 7th edition. So
it was a nightmare.
Oh my goodness. But you did it. That's right. Now, Dr. June, I want to ask you from a program director point of view, and from you've sat on many dissertation committees, so and as well as the comprehensive exams. So what are you looking for when you're looking at a comprehensive exam or looking at a dissertation? When you tell a student, yes, I can see this paper moving on to IRB and go ahead and start your research, or for a comprehensive exam, well, I'm not sure if you've covered all of the topics that you need to cover. So what do you look for?
Okay. Well, thank you for that question. That's a very complex question, of course. Let me start with the qualifying exams. What I find, what I look for is number one, clarity. Is the person able to put what is the real problem we're addressing in this paper? Are the theories connected to the problem? And this is what the committee is looking for too. Is the person able, and everyone on this call seems like, or the ones that did finish, in the clarity, are they able to apply specific theories that relate to that clarity, to the problem? So we have a book called, it's from Waddell, and I know our students are used to it. It's called What is the Problem? It's from Harvard Business School. And it's probably one of the best books as far as defining the problem. If you can define the problem, you're 90% there, you know. So we find that some people kind of go all over and use theories that maybe not connect to the problem. The second thing is, are they able to look at the situational analysis? Are they able to look at the external and internal issues that are occurring in the problem? So we usually use, some people use SWOT or SPELL or one of those. It's not decreed. You get to choose that. And three, I just want to go into three things. I would say, is the person able to clearly go through each stage of, say, the change theory and show how it applies to the problem? So that's when they get into detail, and that's when the reviewers look, okay, how are you evaluating it? So that's that's the exam itself, and most people do very well. I think the last time in the PhDs we did not have one fail, which is great. So the second thing is, on the dissertation is very similar in a sense. Number one, are you picking something that not a whole lot of other people have chosen? What I tell people is to go into ProQuest and find dissertations that say we really need to have uh, more research on this topic. So first of all, find a gap that no one has looked at. For example, no one has explored, someone was wanted to look at Central America. Well, they knew no other dissertation approached the Garifuna in Belize or places around that. So they approached that indigenous species because they wanted to look and see, what about this particular group? So
Right.
that's something, that's a gap. And then the second thing is, again, is it clarity? Is it connected? Are you using correct theories? And do you find something new? I mean, when you look at the history of dissertations and the PhD, one of the big definitions is, did the person come up with new knowledge? You know,
Okay.
so new knowledge is kind of the key here, and that's what we hope people, we do know people come up with. One of the strangest dissertations I've ever seen was, and I won't say who the chair is, but it was about comparing, and this is not my field, but comparing the houses of Hogwarts in, is it, what is it? No, anyway, it's
From
Hogwarts.
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter, right? Thank you for that. So you're a Harry Potter person, but what they did was they compared the houses of Hogwarts, and so I thought this will never get through. But actually, the person did very well. They compared all the Hogwarts houses and they did leadership theory. And I just found out that that person has been named an honorary Hogwarts person from the honorary Harry Potter convention. So they got honors, they got a huge monetary settlement, a trophy. So, I never can foretell what might happen. Someone mentioned, I think it was Dr. Corbett, mentioned Harvard versus Pepperdine. Okay. And you'd think,
Yes.
wow, Harvard, this is amazing. Stanford, Yale. We looked at every single program before we began this program. And believe it or not, we found in Indiana Tech a program very similar that had kind of a similar thought, where we're not going to dictate to you what your topic is. That's the main thing. It's your
Right.
passion. So I do know there's other groups that work together and have a similar dissertation, but I think the real strength is you pick your own topic, and
Right.
you decide where to go. And I think that that's one of the positives. So thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. June and Dr. Queen and Dr. Corbett. At this time, I'd like to ask the students who have joined us, do you have any questions for our speakers? Any questions about your current courses or about the comprehensive exam or dissertation? Any questions? This is your time to ask.
Dr. Dorn, actually, Otzi had a question regarding
Okay.
international students. So they said, I live and work in Nigeria and plan to do the program. However, I will appreciate if you can share more insight on experiences of international students that took or are taking the program. So Dr. Corbett, Dr. Queen, or Dr. Schmeider, if you had any tips for this student.
I'd be happy to address that. As a student who lived in Singapore and had to travel 18 hours for class, I would say what you require is a very hefty travel budget because it will cost you, and you have to make sure that that's provisioned and you think about it in the allocation for the overall, education fund that you're setting aside. I would also say the trips are really important and you have to make the time to come in person. As I said, there is a significant difference between the asynchronous and the video component. So if you can't afford it in terms of time or money, I would say don't do it, right? You have to really make that commitment to come in person. There are a lot of there's a lot of value and assignments that have to be done, face to face. The other thing is just managing self-care, as Dr. Queen was saying, I'd come in after 18-hour flight and sometimes I'd have to go into a 10-hour nonstop day. You have to also know what you can take and your own level of resilience. So don't lie to yourself, just be really honest about whether that's going to work for you before you sign up and then risk dropping off.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions, Sophia, that are in the chat?
Um, no, but I actually did have a question for both of our speakers. You did talk about self-care and also how important organization and time management is. So I was wondering if you could give the students maybe an app, podcast that you follow that is good for self-care and also for organizing or time management skills, something that really helped you out in the program. And Dr. Queen, we can start with you.
Okay. An app or a podcast that I follow for self-care. So my strategy for self-care is to focus on stuff that had nothing to do with global leadership or my dissertation or anything like that. So I would listen to podcasts like Radical AI because I my dissertation was about machine learning and it still is. Like I geek out on tech stuff, so I would just try to focus my energy on something that's not so related to I got to finish this paper. And then also I have community organizations that I volunteer with. So with church or with other civic organizations that I would just go out and help somebody else, some elders or children or things of that nature. Once again, to take my mind off of whatever the assignment was. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Dr. Corbett, did you have any special apps or anything special that you did for self-care?
Yeah, sorry, someone is making a lot of noise here.
Oh.
There's kind of two things I would say is one is, harness the power of little moments. So it doesn't have, in managing the schedule, I found myself managing in lots of little moments. So like I do a 15-minute sprint on something and then I do another 15-minute sprint. So managing through little micro moments rather than just massive chunks, because you look at your schedule and go, I need to spend 5 hours on this paper. How am I going to do it? Right. So managing through moments. Then the other thing that I did to hack it is I actually found a lot of the books were available on audiobooks. So alternating what you need to read and spend hours at your desk versus taking a nice healthy walk by continuing the rest of the chapter through the audiobook. So I'd find myself buying kind of both formats, the hardcover format and then the audiobook format, so I could just cycle through and not just be at my desk for hours on. Also, what I realize is, it helps with memorization because you don't retain the information the same way when it's in audio and readable format. So
Right.
that can help you take a nice walk, go out for some fresh air, when you also mix and match the formats.
Yeah. I would like to add to that, if I could, Dr. Dorn. You
Yes.
you guys have brought up a challenge that I think we need to face. We have classes, we know we're 40% online and 60% face to face. And in order to have visa issues that are clear, we have to match certain formats. This
Right.
creates kind of a problem when we have, as someone mentioned, a long day. We try to make it only like twice a semester, but it is a long day from 9 to 9 at night. And
Right.
if we don't have dinner, it can go to 7:30. That is a long day. What I would recommend, first of all, is be sure that you take, regular breaks, or you to be sure people know that, every hour you need to take a break and self-care. You need to take a lunch break. I mean, for maybe a longer lunch break, take a walk, around the block. Don't, just get out there and move. You don't have to go on Peloton, even though it's been recommended we get a Peloton for the West LA campus. Um, I mean, it doesn't have to be that much, but just get out and walk because it's a challenge. I need to say, I mean, when you're there on a Sunday at 5, I know how that feels because I've been at many classes. So we're still looking at that as a challenge, and we haven't addressed it yet. We know education's changing, and we're 40% online now. But we don't know the future. But I would think we'd want still face to face. I think nothing beats that, especially our trips. When you go to
Right.
India,
Yes.
China, you get to know everybody, perhaps too much in some cases, but China, India, but Central America, I mean, you can't beat that. That's my favorite part of the program. So if you know anybody who, make sure we go on those trips. Don't have them stop that. It could be voluntary and then maybe some may be online. And then the last thing I would recommend, there's nothing against setting up your own library. This sounds kind of geeky, but you know, get uh, maybe get from us. We're putting together a list of what books and texts and articles might be good, even before you start the program, because you can have a library in your own home. It can be audio, it can be, physical, and you just have it there in case you need to reference something. You could have files on your computers. Set that up even before you start the whole program. So I think you'd always have that. I know some people have like rooms and rooms of books. I don't think you need that, but just the major books like Nordhaus and
Right.
Bowman and Deal, reframing organizations. There's a whole bunch of books I know all of you have, and which I think are useful. So,
If I could
No,
add
that's
one thing,
yeah.
oh
one more
yes,
thing I
yes.
thought about for organization tips is utilizing software like Zotero or whatever other software like it to organize your articles and be able to list it by topic or whatever. That was so helpful for me when I was writing papers as well as putting together my literature review for dissertation because I already had it highlighted and notes and all of that, and it was in one central place, so I didn't have to go back to the library like, what was that article, who was that author, what. It was none of that. So tarot and utilizing time blocks too. So 1 hour I'm going to focus on just this, the next 2 hours I'm going to do this, so that will be helpful as well.
What was the name of that software?
Zotero.
Zotero. Okay.
Zotero is the one that I use. Which
And
one did you use?
I
Dr.
used
Butler?
Mendeley, which
Yeah,
was
that was the second one.
really good.
Mandalay.
Mendeley, which is free.
Oh, okay.
This is a very good piece of advice that Dr. Queen brings up that I found wasn't really brought up in the curriculum. So it's kind of like knows one to take one. As much as learning APA is painful, but do it fast, I would say it's the same thing. It's kind of a little bit painful to learn the software of those management content, but it's really worth it because if you start to just pin your articles to your desktop, or worse, you're printing them, it's going to take you hours and hours afterwards to create your reference because the reference managers auto-populate your bibliography. So it's a dream. Like the first time you make it work, you're literally jumping up. You go, oh my God, this is crazy. They organize it perfectly to APA. It's alphabetical. And, I found that when I was doing my APA review after the dissertation writing on corrections, I went back to Mendeley many times to review what was exactly that article because they'd say, need to insert page. And you're like, after 3 years, are you really going to remember the page where you saw that quotation if you haven't put it into your reference manager you are so stuck. So it's really worth the investment. It's excellent advice.
One other software tip, and then we can move on, Dr. Dorn. You will be doing projects for your quant and qual classes that require you to be familiar with those types of software. So Qualtrics, SPSS, R.
Yes.
So familiarize yourself with that as soon as possible. So by the time you get to the project, it's not, completely foreign. I would definitely recommend that because a lot of the members in our cohort, when we got to that advanced quant class, Dr. Corbett, you remember, it was like, oh my gosh, we don't know how to use software. So
Yeah, I was one of them, and it was a nightmare. I had to learn the assignment and learn the software at the same time. And I wish I had had Dr. Queen give me my advice before, because then I could have used the summer to take an SPSS class. So great advice.
Great advice. And we have someone that has a question. Miss Abuka?
Chidima, yes.
Hi. Oh, okay, I had my hand raised, so I will put that down now. Hi, everyone. I am a new student, started this term, doing the PhD
Welcome.
program. Thank you. It's been very informative, all the information you both shared and everyone else. I just wanted to make a comment in that now we're living it a little bit. As you guys were telling your stories, I realized why it sounded so different. It's called COVID. Um, COVID happened after I think both of you were done. So a little bit is what we're dealing now is a little bit different in certain ways because we are dealing with COVID now. So we don't get, some of us are still not working back at work. So we're not able to say, oh, let's try this that I learned in school. So we are not physically there. So it adds a little bit of a different flavor there. So I just wanted to mention that. I also want to say, as far as of being in the program so far, I think we're just having the professors and ourselves acknowledge the difficulties of the process of the times that we're living now has really helped us keep our sanity. Because especially when you're working in a place that is very demanding, where you work already 60-hour weeks, and then to put school on top of it. So having the professors checking on us because they genuinely care how we're doing, and they understand even if it's virtual. And the bottom line is, I think everybody in the class wants to do a really good job, but sometimes we don't get to do as much as we want to because of other demands that are upon us. And just
Yes.
having them understand that, it goes a long way. And also just individually giving ourselves some grace, because it just gets really hard, because you do have some people in the group that don't have that much of a demanding job, and they have more time to do things, and you just clinch, that I wish I had more time to devote as much as the other person. But at the same time, just giving each other some grace and understanding that, based on where you're at this moment in your career journey, sometimes you just do not have 20 hours to do one thing, but then you do it sometimes, and you have little to no sleep. So so just acknowledging those things really helps us. It is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So it really helps us feel like we can get to the finish line without dying off like the Ben-Hur movie, which I've told Dr. June about. Just passing out from rowing very hard. So those were my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was a question about which APA program do you like best? Did either of you use Perla?
I just bought the
No?
book and stuff, self-studied with the book.
Same for me. I didn't use a program for APA. And I know I've been talking a lot about different softwares, but for APA, I did not use a program. I just bought the book and did it the old fashioned way, and really reached out to the Writing Center.
Yes.
A lot about my questions, to be completely honest. They are very, very helpful. So that's what I did.
Let me also emphasize that. Make sure you go to the Writing Center, even for the different papers that you have to write, not just your dissertation. Because I know when it comes to doing your literature review, the Writing Center has an excellent workshop for that, as well as for your Chapter 3 methodologies when it comes to your dissertation. The Writing Center also has an excellent workshop for that too. So look at the Writing Center to help you along the way even before you start your dissertation phase.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, in the first year, I would say do every paper with and through the writing center, because every time you get the corrections back, you learn, and then you're
Yes.
building muscle memory. Oh, I need to get that punctuation right. I don't want to make that mistake on the paragraph again. And, by the end of the first year, if you've done, a good partnership with the writing center, you become fully trained.
And I will also add, our cohort definitely advocated for faculty to review just draft versions of our papers prior to it being the time to turn it in. And a
Yes.
lot were open to it. So the
Mm.
Writing Center, as well as reaching out to your instructors and saying, I want to make sure I have my edits correct prior to turning in this assignment. Will you look at it? Will you review it? And they'll help you as well.
Yeah. And another thing that comes to mind, if Dr. June doesn't mind me saying, is I would say it's okay not to treat all assignment the same way. I think you have to be a little bit choiceful. There are some assignments that are more directly related to your dissertation, and I'd say
Yes.
it's good to over rotate on that, because they're going to help you, and you can really over invest in them. And that particularly happens, I think, when you start to make the choice of your methodology on qual or quant. So, I chose a qualitative methodology, grounded theory. Like, I know that when I was doing the SPSS class, I went to the professor directly and said, I'm not going to do quant. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to do what the requirement is. And actually, they let me add something related to my dissertation on the side. So I think you just have to be smart. You're not working to the professors. Again, it's not, pedagogy. So you're working for yourself. And so I think, Abuka, to the comments you were making and giving yourself grace, you should be the judge of that. You're not going to invest in every paper the same way. It's okay. I think you can, be honest with yourself and also be honest with your professors. And the ones that you invest in, you're not investing to get a grade, you're investing in yourself. And I think Dr. Majidi said that
Yes.
to us beautifully one day. He said, you all get A's because you're here. So you all have an A. So now that you have an A, what are you going to do with that A? And to me, that helped me so much, because it just gave me the permission to really invest in what I wanted to investigate. I thought that was very liberating.
Yes. Well, right now it is 1:00 and I want to respect everyone's time. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's roundtable, especially Dr. June, Dr. Queen, and Dr. Corbett. All of your insights, all of your information has been wonderful. And like I said at the beginning, this recording will be sent out to everyone who participated in this roundtable today. I'm Dr. Renee Dorn, Sophia Henriquez. We're both from the Office of Alumni Relations for GSEP. And if you ever need to contact one of us, our office hours you can see on the screen, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can email us or call us. And for these roundtables, we want you to fill out a survey just to let us know how we're doing, things that we can improve on, things that you liked. So you see the QR code for the survey evaluation. If you could take that survey for us, just to let us know how we're doing, use your phone and basically take a picture of the QR code or connect with the QR code. And then you also see right below that is get involved. And for the Alumni Relations Office, we have a form that we would love for you to fill out, just so we can find out what you're interested in and how you may want to be involved within GSEP. And that's another QR code. So if you take your phone again and scan that, so that you can get the interest form for that. So once again, I thank all of you for joining us today for our Student Alumni Roundtable for the PhD in Global Leadership and Change program. Thank you, Dr. June. Thank you, Dr. Queen. Thank you, Dr. Corbett. And we hope to see you all at our next Student Alumni Roundtable. So thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon.